Have you ever wondered why some things just click, while other things feel like a total struggle to learn? Or maybe you've tried to teach someone something, and it felt like you were just hitting a brick wall. Well, today, we're going to unlock the secrets to both. We'll get into how you learn best and how you can become way more effective at teaching others.
So here's our game plan. First, we're going to help you figure out your own learning style. Then we'll dive into something called the VAK model. After that, we're going to switch gears and talk about teaching adults, and we'll wrap up with the 4 absolute pillars of adult learning.
But first, let me ask you something. Just think about it for a second. How do you really learn best? Is it by seeing things like looking at charts and diagrams? Is it by hearing someone give a great explanation? Or do you really need to get your hands on something and learn by doing it?
Okay, let's jump right into our first section, discovering your own personal learning style.
So, what even is a learning style? You can think of it like your brain's favorite way to take in new information. It's all about which of your senses you lean on the most when you're trying to figure something new out.
And that leads us perfectly to one of the most popular ways to think about this, the VAK model. It breaks everything down into 3 big categories: visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. Now look, it's a super popular model, but it's not some strict scientific law, right? Think of it more as a fantastic tool to get to know yourself a little better.
First up, let's talk about the visual learner. These are the show me, don't just tell me people. For them, understanding is totally tied to what they can see with their own 2 eyes.
Does this sound like you? Visual learners remember what they read so much better than what they hear. They're usually the ones in a meeting taking super detailed notes, maybe even using different colored pens to organize everything. They really need a quiet space to focus, and often prefer to just work alone.
This quote just nails their whole mindset. For a visual learner, reading is everything. They'd much rather get a detailed report to read through than sit and listen to someone talk about it for an hour, because seeing it all laid out gives them a sense of control and clarity.
Now, on the flip side, we have the auditory learner. For this crew, it's the world of sound where learning really happens and comes to life.
You know, auditory learners are, well, they're pretty different. They can often listen to something and totally get it without writing a single thing down. They learn best when they can talk about it, have a discussion, or debate an idea. They tend to have amazing memories for stuff they've heard and can actually find it tough to learn just from reading.
This really sums it all up, doesn't it? For an auditory learner, talking through a new idea is how they make it stick. Think about study groups, listening to podcasts, or even just explaining a concept out loud to themselves. That act of speaking and hearing is what locks the knowledge in.
And that brings us to our third and final style, the kinesthetic learner. These are the doers, the movers, the people who have to learn through physical action and actually touching things.
Kinesthetic learners, they often have incredible hand-eye coordination. Their whole motto is learning by doing. They absolutely love practical activities, group projects, anything that gets them up and moving. But man, make them sit through a long theoretical lecture, that's a surefire way for them to get bored and just tune out completely.
This right here is the heart and soul of the kinesthetic learner. Watching someone else do it is okay, but for them, the real learning happens when they can get their hands dirty and just try it for themselves. It's all about building that muscle memory, not just storing facts in their brain.
Okay, so figuring out your own style is huge. It really is. But what happens when the tables are turned and you're the one who has to do the teaching? Let's totally switch gears and ask, how do we teach intellectually mature adults effectively?
So yeah, we're making a big shift in our thinking now. We're moving away from how we take in information to how we can best give it to other people, especially other adults.
And let's be super clear on what we mean by an intellectually mature adult. This has nothing to do with how old they are. We're talking about any learner who walks in the door with their own life experiences and their own existing knowledge. They already have a mental map of how the world works.
This brings us to a really practical, hands-on toolkit for teaching adults, and it's all built on 4 key pillars.
These are the big 4. We've got readiness, experience, autonomy, and action. Let's break down what each of these really looks like in the real world.
Pillar number 1 is readiness. I love this analogy. Trying to teach someone who isn't ready is like trying to pour water into a closed container. It's just not going anywhere. As the teacher, your first job is to answer their silent question, why should I care? You have to connect what you're teaching to a problem they have right now to get them to open up.
Next, we have experience. Every adult you teach has a whole history. They are not blank slates.
In fact, that life experience is one of your greatest tools. The best teachers find ways to link new information to what their learners already know. A pro tip is to use examples and language from their job or their culture to make new ideas feel familiar and less intimidating.
Pillar number 3 is autonomy, and this one is all about respect. Remember that VAK model we just talked about? Well, every adult learner is different. They're independent. They're unique. A great teacher doesn't just know this, they embrace it. They create chances for everyone to get involved in a way that feels right for them, whether that's a big group discussion, some quiet solo research, or a hands-on project.
And that brings us to our final pillar, action. For adults, learning isn't just about collecting facts. It has to have a real, practical use. Like right now, it needs to solve a problem they're facing today. Think about it. You teach someone Excel so they can solve a specific problem for their class. Or you train them on PowerPoint so their presentation at work next week is going to be amazing. The learning has to be a tool they can use immediately.
So there you have it. We've looked at your own personal learning style and the core principles for teaching others. You've got the toolkit now. From the VAK model to the 4 pillars, the knowledge is officially in your hands. So the only real question left is, what are you going to do with it?